Joining us here in the VOA studio are two distinguished guests. Dr. Kenneth Mwenda, extraordinary professor of law, University of Pretoria in South Africa, and he's also a former Rhodes Scholar at Britain's Oxford University. Ni Akwete, African policy analyst and activist. Well, I have to say, frankly, that I am profoundly honored and exceedingly humbled to have the opportunity to host the two of you on Straight Talk Africa one more time.
You're most welcome, Shaka.
Thank you so much. Joining us from the VOA Bureau in New York is Ambassador Chintu Nyago, Ugandan Deputy Permanent Representative to the United Nations in New York. And last but not least, Dr. Sishua, a political historian at the University of Zambia and former Rhodes Scholar himself at Britain's Oxford University. He joins us via telephone link-up from the Zambian capital, Lusaka. Ambassador Nyago and Sishua, it's always a pleasure, of course, having you on Straight Talk Africa.
Thank you for having me, Shaka.
You're most welcome.
It was good to see you, Shaka, there with Dr. Kaunda, first president and founding president of Zambia. I mean, he is a great leader that Africa has seen in the last century, no doubt. I think of the other senior statesmen that I can think of, it's Kwame Nkrumah, Nelson Mandela. Those sort of match up to his stature. Of course, Mandela was a bigger person.
What about
Nyerere too, in Tanzania? Yeah, we've had some secretaries, but what we are seeing lately, of course, but what we are seeing lately, I'm trying to draw a contrast between the founding presidents and the new generation of leaders. It's a bit disappointing. There are not many good stories across the continent to tell. Again, there are mixed feelings. If you look at, for example, some countries I will not want to mention, but people from some of those countries will tell you different stories about their leader. But you know, international foreign relations, person projects a different image. So there are mixed feelings, but we don't have sort of a unanimous consensus to say like this is Nkrumah. Of course, the Ghanaians themselves, if you talk to Ghanaians, there were some who were anti-Nkrumah's domestic policies.
Correct,
not all
correct,
that.
Correct.
But at the international level, Nkrumah stood tall. Kaunda stood tall. There's no question about it. You're talking of even people like Samora Machel in Mozambique. There's no question about it. Where there was...
What about Robert Mugabe?
Mugabe started pretty well in the initial phases of his presidency, but things kind of dwindled down. We never heard much from Kamuzu Banda in Malawi because Kenya and Malawi, from independence, they pursued an accommodation development strategy which basically inherited and retained institutions they inherited from the colonial masters.
The American would probably call it, they adopted a policy of a sort of constructive engagement?
Precisely. Zambia and other countries tried to sort of reform, reorganize the institutions. Of course, there were the leftist, the radical, the Mozambique, Angola, which pursued the socialist Marxist path. You know, but Zambia was somewhere in between. And so you see, if you look at Zambia and countries like Tanzania, which pursued African socialism, humanism, ujamaa, negritude under Senghor, all those ideologies at the time. So the 80s were a very exciting moment.
Right.
I was at undergraduate University of Zambia, and so I was a student when President Kaunda was in power.